Low-quality fans of a high-quality Bruins team, welcome back. The rookie camp has been announced, and it starts later this week. We're right there. We're almost back. We're back. We're back. I'm pumped. This season might be kind of painful, but it could also be a lot of fun. So, optimism, unrelenting optimism. You remember that? I kind of stopped saying it through last season because we were on pace for 140 points in the standings through most of it, and it didn't feel like optimism was necessary. For some of you it was, but for most of us, it just didn't feel like it was needed. But we have announced, we've announced the rookie camp. The first game is going to be Friday. There's a couple practices this week starting tomorrow, but the first game is Friday against the Penguins. I don't know how the broadcasting is going to work like that. If you remember last year, the Bruins didn't do any broadcasting, and we had to rely on Buffalo and New Jersey. So hopefully one of the two teams does some sort of shitty stream so we can at least watch. But let's talk about these players a little bit. I'm just going to list them off first. We have, I've never said this name correctly in my life, and I know I'm not going to start now, Joey Abade, John Beecher, Julian Beland, John Farinacci, Ty Haliburda. We've got Curtis Hall. He's only 23. He feels like he's been in the AHL for a decade for me. I don't know why. Brett Harrison, Trevor Kantar, Fabian Lysell, Adam Makura, Georgi Merkulov, one of our favorites. Owen Peterson, Matt Patois, Luke Toporowski are your forwards. Your defensemen, Frederick Brunet, Mike Callahan, Jackson Edward, Mason Lohrei, Ryan Mast, Ethan Ritchie. Ritchie gives me nightmares. Graydon Siepman, Blake Smith, and then the goaltenders, William Rousseau and Samuel St. Hilaire. There is no Reed Dick for this camp because he is injured. I actually thought he didn't get an invite because he projects out to be like 4 years from the NHL at best. But then again, a couple of these players do too. So what am I talking about, right? I wanted to talk about, this might just be a one-taker through the whole video because this is a quick, easy one, right? And I might be recording multiple today. It's fine. We're not releasing them all today. We might not even release this one today, actually, because the Centennial team's coming out tonight. Focus! Who's under the most pressure? And I feel like there's two types of pressure, and to distinguish between them is important. There is self-inflicted pressure, and then there is organizational pressure. The self-inflicted is simply a player who holds themselves to a standard and wants to meet that standard. I think three guys fall under that category. I think the first two are obvious. You have Fabian Lysell, and then you have Lohrei. Both of these guys have said in one way or another they want to make the team. Duh, that's the goal. That's the goal. But both of them really could. They really could. It's not a good bet to make, but they really could. The third guy is John Farinacci, has also stated that he wants to make the team. Everyone states they want to make the team. That's not the reason I put these three guys here. I put these three guys here is because everything I hear from them, they feel like they are in a top class, that they are in a level of their own, which is exactly what you want to hear from any young prospect. Lysell would not fill a need right this moment. He does not appear to be ready to be the guy behind Pasternak on the right side, allowing DeBrus to move back to the left side. He does not appear to be there. But he is putting a lot of pressure on himself to be that guy. I don't think he fills that need if he were to make the team because I don't think he's going to be reliable in that role yet. It's very, very important that you hear me in this. Yet. I'm not shitting on Lysell. Don't come for me, please. I'm fragile. Don't do that to me. Lohrei does fill a need. We have a spot on the defense, maybe two, depending on who you talk to, that you really feel like we could improve upon. And if Lohrei, who is potentially ready for those kind of minutes, third pairing minutes, he would fill a real need on our defense. So although there is organization pressure on that side, it's really kind of him putting it all on his shoulders. We're not expecting him to be ready this year. We would love it, but the expectation isn't that. And for Farinacci, it's kind of the same thing. He's a young guy who who just wants to make his presence known. He wants this camp to go really well, so he's put a lot of pressure on himself to move up the depth chart and make sure he's passing by some of these guys that the Bruins organization has watched for longer. They've had their eyes on Farinacci for a while, but you know what I mean. They've been closer to the team. So I feel like these three are really guys that are pushing themselves to be at the top of the rookie camp. And I feel like that's realistic for all of them. Farinacci doesn't have a great ceiling the way Lohrei and Liesel would, but he certainly has that drive to be the best version of himself. The organization is putting pressure on a couple different guys. Now, I want to be clear with pretty much all of these guys. They have some time. They have some time. But you can tell how the organization views them and where they may be falling short of certain expectations. The first one being John Beecher. His name is on everyone's lips all the time in that organization because of all the tools he has. He's great in the dot. He's very quick-footed. He has a certain level of vision, really, really strong physically, although he doesn't use it enough. But the offensive upside is practically non-existent. He looks like he's destined to be a really good 4C, which there's a place for that in the NHL. But if you're Beecher, you're walking into this camp and you want to feast because you want to show the organization that, hey, don't drop my ceiling yet. I can be more. And really what the organization wants to see from him is impose yourself. None of this backseat, let me make a play that makes a play that makes a play. Be the guy on a line. There's a right way to play, and it's including all of your teammates and making sure that your shift goes as well as possible. Responsible in your own zone, getting into the offensive zone, creating pressure. Well within his tools, his toolkit. He can make that happen. But you've seen throughout his entire process that he's never been the guy on a line. He tends to take a back seat. He tends to fall down depth charts. He did it in Michigan. He doesn't drive a line himself. And the organization would really love to see him take that next step in assertiveness, start using his physicality a little more, and change his trajectory a little bit. So there's a lot of pressure on him, I think. I think there really is. And he does not want to fall down the depth chart, which he's had happen to him in the past at other organizations. That sucks. There's a lot of pressure there. Trevor Kuntar, he is a good prospect and has been a good prospect for a couple of years, but not a great one. Simply not a great one. The camp is going to show if he belongs at this level or if he doesn't. No one is picking him to make the team this season right out. And he feels like the kind of guy who could stall out and be a respectable AHL pro, which there's nothing wrong with that. But will he take that next step? And I think the organization has eyes on him to, all right, make a good impression here. You need to come into this camp and you need to stand out. You need to stand out against these guys that have more time than you. And Kuntar's name slowly has kept falling back. A couple of years ago, we were talking about him more. It's just not the way it is right now. And this camp is going to go a long way in deciding how quickly he gets dismissed. Or if he forces himself into a conversation where you go, all right, well, we got to keep him around to the end of the preseason. We got to really see what he can do. And then, of course, you have, and I think this isn't going to be a surprise, Toporowski. Just started a 2-year make us keep you around deal. They love his intangibles. They love him. Now, only 29 points in 47 games last year with Providence. Not terrible. Not terrible by any means. But they want to see him take the next step offensively. His forecheck is solid. He's a big body. He creates havoc wherever he goes. He loves the front of the net. Got to have a little more finish and got to have that ferocity through your entire shifts. He's been known to take a shift off every now and again. I hear people talk about how his hard-nosed play style, his motor, but when I've watched him, I have seen some shifts where he just kind of skates around a little bit. And look, that does happen. Pasternak, we've accused of that for years. Liesel, we've accused of that. But those guys are at a different level, talent-wise. Toporowski has to rely on his motor. and his physicality. And they need to see him continue that. Now, of course, he just signed this 2-year ELC deal, but they need to see him start with the right step here. All of those guys in their own ways are going to be pretty interesting to watch. I think the most interesting players to watch, though, through this will be Ryan Mast, who shockingly signed an ELC a year ago. It slid a year, so he still has 3 years left. He has plenty of time before a decision needs to be made. But you really get the sense that the Bruins are looking at him as a Carlo replacement someday. And that's a huge ask. Mast skating, not quite NHL level right now. He's better with the puck than you'd assume at his size and stature and how goofy he kind of looks at moments where you get him in a phone booth and you think that's an easy turnover, but he somehow clears the puck away. There are real moments with him where you're shocked. You think very highly of him. He's a late round, I think a 6th rounder a couple years ago. That being said, he needs a lot of work. He's only 20. He projects to be an NHL player, not projects to be an NHL player. He projects to be sniffing around there at around 23-ish years old. So there's years before we get there. But I got to watch him last year in the Prospects Challenge, and I got to watch him through the past year with his just growth. And you want to see him come in and look pretty good. You want to see that they signed him to that ELC for a reason. That they said, hey, we want to keep you around for a while because we really think you can grow and mature into a really solid defensive defenseman. You're not looking for a lot of points from him. You're not looking for a lot of offense from him. You're looking for him to turn the puck over in the defensive zone, obviously create the turnover, not just turn it over, get the pass to his D partner who's a better puck mover, and get it the hell out. That's what you're looking for from him. Responsible shutdown play. He's going to have every opportunity as these young guys try to show off their skills, try to show off their talent. I think it's going to be really interesting to watch just as in a couple of years, this camp might matter for him. It might matter. Merkulov, a name that a lot of people I keep hearing talk about. I love him. I'm a big fan of his game. He was just a rookie in the AHL. So, again, there's a little bit of time there. The question with him is, the reason he's so interesting to watch is, does his game translate to the NHL? I'm going to give you a question here, and I'm going to pause for a second and see if you know the answer. What was his shooting percentage last year with the Providence Bruins? 19%. Does that feel a little high to you? Because it should. It should. He was excellent last year. He had 55 points. He led all rookies, I believe. He was great. But is he good enough to be a third-line trigger man for Geeky? Can he jump in on that left side, allow JVR to be on that top 6 unit, alleviate some of the goal-scoring pressure of the bottom 6, which there's not a lot of pressure there, but you want some points from your bottom 6. Does he fill that role? Is he able to do that? Defensively, has his game come a long enough way? Will we see effort defensively? Or will he just be too immature to focus on that side of his game and think of this as a highlight reel challenge? I don't think that's what's going to happen. You see people fall into that mistake every now and again with these camps. But that's a really interesting player to watch. Because we have no idea. I think the organization doesn't even really know what they have in Merkulov. Will he translate to an NHL level? This camp doesn't decide that, but it does allow us to move in one direction or the other with assumptions. I think he's going to have a really good camp. Lastly, and this will be real quick, the other most interesting guy to watch, Jackson Edward. Will he show up to play hockey? Or will he just be out there to delete other teams' prospects? Who the fuck knows? But it'll be fun as hell to watch. It'll be really fun to watch. I have no idea what we're going to get from him. I do know that he's going to hurt some people, though. All right, this video is already getting too long, but let's run through the invites real quick so you have a general idea of what you're looking for with these guys. Julian Beland is a 20-year-old, 6'3", 185-pound left shot center or winger or defenseman. He plays a little defense as well. He had 52 points in 68 games last year in the QMJHL, a league that my girlfriend recently called me out for making up. I told her it was the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and she said that sounds fake. It does sound fake. Has a great motor, finds open space when away from the puck, and isn't afraid to go to the net. Those are like the biggest things about his game that I could find. Scouts like his hustle in general, and he has a well-rounded game. He doesn't excel in any specific area, though, and usually to make the NHL, you need some attribute that gets you, above others. He doesn't really have those, but he is impactful every time he's on the ice, just as a solid guy all around. Ty Haliburda, 18 years old, 5'11", 181-pound center. Kicking cans at the center position. Totally get that. He, I believe, is a potential to be drafted this upcoming draft next year. Energy bunny. That's basically what it is. Energizer bunny. More like an Energizer rhino, I guess, because he inflicts a lot of pain on both ends of the ice. He's a nasty guy on the forecheck and a physical presence defensively as well. He has a really, really strong 200-foot game. There's a lot to like about him. Based on the reports, I'd actually expect a lot of penalty minutes, but I checked in on the numbers, and he only had 12 penalty minutes in 66 games last year in the WHL to go with 21 goals and 16 assists. He's extremely fast. They love his skating speed, maybe not his skating agility. And like I mentioned, responsible in his own end. He was one of the Vancouver Giants' top penalty killers. The Vancouver Giants, where Lee Sell played in the WHL. Just an all-around pretty fun prospect to watch. He's jittery, though. Makes decisions really quickly, oftentimes to his detriment. As soon as he gets the puck, he wants to move the puck. I don't think that's from fear of holding the puck. I think he just wants to make a play. And as many young guys in the field, they just rush things trying to, immediately make an impact. So I'm sure he's going to learn some lessons about calming it down a little bit. He's draft eligible, like I mentioned. You'll probably hear his name 5th or 6th round next year. So this is kind of a showing out for not just the Bruins, but other teams. With a player like this, there are certain scouts that are listing him as high as the 4th round, maybe late 3rd. I think the earliest I've seen is early 4th. The reason he probably falls later in the draft, 5th, 6th, maybe even 7th round, is because he doesn't appear to have any sort of ceiling when it comes to offensive game. He just doesn't have a lot of creativity. He doesn't make a lot of plays. He doesn't get his teammates involved in advantageous situations enough for them to think highly of him. His ceiling is probably a bottom 6 defensive forward, but there's a place for that in the NHL. There's nothing wrong with that, but you certainly wouldn't see a higher pick used on him. Adam Makura, 20-year-old left shot center, 6'4", 200 pounds. Not much to say here. Looks like this was more of a physical presence invite than anything. 52 points in 58 games in the WHL, which is solid, don't get me wrong, but he was on the older side of some of those teams, and he has a decent shot, but that's about all I could find on him. Hopefully I have a lot better idea of what kind of prospect he is after the camp, if he can, get the chance to show out a little bit. Next, we have Graydon Seatman, 19 years old, right shot defenseman, 5'11", 185 pounds. Good skater, decent defender, good puck mover, 43 points in 61 games in the WHL last year. He doesn't have a lot of great talents, and if you're going to be an offensive defenseman, you have to show out a little more on that side of the puck, because defensively he's okay, but he doesn't have the size that a lot of NHL scouts like to really push your stock up, I would say. So it'll be interesting to see if he can really shine in the puck movement department to get a little attention, but that's probably his best focus, and to show out his skating a little bit. The next on our list is Blake Smith. He's an 18-year-old left shot defenseman, 6'4", 212 pounds. We drafted a guy named Kostadinsky, I believe is correct, this last year. 7th rounder. Huge kid. Blake Smith is basically that. Pretty good skater for his size, don't get me wrong. The reports show that he's pretty solid. Brutal physical presence. Not much past that. So we're going to have at least a couple guys out there between him and Jackson Edward, who are just going to be out there deleting people. which is going to be fun to watch. Who am I kidding? William Rousseau, our first goaltender to mention, 20 years old, 6'1", 187-pound goaltender. 47 games played in the QMJHL last year with a .908 save percentage and 4 shutouts. Doesn't have a hulking stature to rely on. Smart goalie, but he needs some growth in calming down, economy of movement, things of that nature. He's not very explosive. He's not a guy that you're going to get super excited about as far as goaltenders go. Interesting to watch, I guess. Honestly, with both the goalies, there's not a lot to talk about. He at least has a little information out about him. Samuel St. Hilaire, 19 years old, 6'2", 183 pounds. I know literally nothing about this guy. I know nothing. He had a .903 through 29 games of the QMJHL last year. I can't find any scouting reports on him. Nothing solid, at least. I'm not going to give you the idea that I know what I'm talking about with him. I don't. I just don't. So if he's a total unknown to me, we'll see what we get. That's all I got with that. I'm sorry to disappoint. That's it. Those are your prospects. I can't believe this video is 20-something minutes right now that I have to shave down. I thought this was going to be quick and easy, but here we are. I'm just glad hockey's back. I'm so excited to hopefully watch the game Friday and see if a couple guys step up. I know all eyes are going to be on Liesel and Lohrei, but there's a lot of players to see if they can take a step or just put their name on the top of a list for the start of the preseason to get some real ice time and have this organization figure out, all right, do you bump a guy like Patrick Brown out of the lineup? Is Boquist in over you? You know? Is Lucic a 13th forward because of you? There's real opportunity for a few different guys. And I don't think the team is sold on anyone to the point where they're not going to give others chances. I think it's a pretty wide open year for that bottom six. And if someone really shows out, potentially a top 6 role. We'll see. Go Bees. Go Bees!